Hi there, and welcome to our 11th episode of our BigLipz podcast. This week I'm hosting. My name is Sam McCauley Blair, and I am joined by the lovely Catherine Maurice. Um, by now, if you've been watching the script, we're both sort of former and current film students who just love to talk about movies, and we figured a podcast was the best way to go about doing that. This week, the theme is performance. So we are basically going to be predominantly talking about actors and acting in a variety of categories, which we will get into with as much haste as possible. So since I'm hosting, Catherine is going to do most of the talking first off the gate. So the opening sort of category is our favorite performer. So basically like our favorite actor in theory. So over to you, Catherine.
Thank you. So this one I had kind of done like I could have gone on forever, just a list of like favorite performers. So I've done like a little short list and then done like a couple of favorite performances. Um so basically the favorite performers, there's loads of people, and the more that you wrote down, the more people were kind of coming into your head. But one
Yeah.
person that always kind of stands out, and it's not a very original thought, but it would be Kate Winslet because she's amazing, and she's in my favorite movie ever. So there's that as well.
Exactly.
Um, I think I genuinely don't think I've ever, even if she's in just like a little rom com, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything where she's not been amazing.
Fair.
Um, yeah, so she was one of the choices. The other choice, randomly, was the actor Michael Shannon, who's in.
That is a surprise. He's in Kangaroo
He's
Jack.
yeah. He's maybe that's why I love him. Maybe that's where it started. That's a great
Exactly.
movie.
I love Kangaroo Jack.
But yeah, no, he's in. I've seen him in loads of things, and he always plays like a different character. But I feel like he's like criminally underrated. Like I feel like not very many people know him by name. They're just like,
I
oh,
think you're
that's that
right.
guy that's in Kangaroo Jack.
Exactly. First protocol.
But yeah, he's in a few things where he's just amazing. I think he's in The Runaways, and he
Not seen
plays
that.
their kind of manager. It's good. He plays their kind of manager. That's everyone in that movie is really good. Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning as well. But he kind of stuck out as well because he was playing like a real life person. I think that's always slightly more difficult because
Yeah.
especially someone who's like in the public kind of sphere, everyone knows who they are and what they look like, and when you're watching it, you're like that doesn't look like him, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then from there, I was kind of thinking, weirdly, one of my kind of current, it sounds weird saying favorite actor, but it's actually Jacob Tremblay. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Who's the little boy that's in Room?
Oh,
And he
excellent.
was also in, yeah. I think he's outstanding. Like I think he's
Yeah,
amazing. I've seen him in
I
a few
agree.
things. Obviously, he's in Room, and he was only like 8 years old at the time,
Yeah.
and for like half of the movie, it's him and Brie Larson, and Brie Larson won an Oscar for it, and he's like properly holding his own against her, and he's 8 years old. And
Very good
normally
point.
I'm like not a fan of child actors. I think they're really annoying, but he just seems like, I don't know. He just seems so like he's so good at it that he's. It doesn't seem like an actor. Like he's like anything scripted.
That's a very
There's one
good.
point as well in the movie where I'll. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. No, I was just gonna say there's one point in the movie where I'll try not to like spoil it, but he's like screaming for like his mum, and it's horrifying. Like it's
Yeah.
so difficult to watch because he's properly like screaming for her, and
Yeah.
it's just funny. Like it's funny to think that he's only 8. Like, do you remember when you were 8? I was. Do you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah,
a bit,
I definitely did
a
not have
bit
it
blur.
within me to to be on a set and acting
No,
and
exactly.
but yeah, no,
I think
like
as well he was when we went to see Doctor Sleep, and he was in that briefly, and he was only in it for like 5-10 minutes, and I remember him being so good that it like almost took me out of it for a second because I was like, oh
wow.
god, that's really happening to him. And then there was a minute where I was like, no, he's acting, and then I was like, oh my god, that's even worse. Do you know what I mean? That's even more impressive.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's
Um,
like
so, oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, like that's I I would have thought that's a pretty left field choice, but that's a really really interesting pick, and the fact that I like the fact that you say that you usually find child actors annoying, but like his character in the room is also at points like deliberately supposed to be like sort of aggravating,
Yeah.
and that makes it all the more impressive that like he manages to like you sort of he's so endearing in the role, he's so good in the role that like that doesn't taint it at all, it doesn't spoil it. Like you actually end up still loving him and loving his performance, despite the fact that it is like intentionally like aggravating at points.
Yeah, definitely. I think my second choice, and this would he's also like a really good actor. I do always enjoy when I see him in a movie, and it's Stanley Tucci. And my choice for
Yeah,
that was his role in The Lovely Bones,
I've never seen that.
where he plays. It's really good, but basically he plays this character called Mr. Harvey, and he's like unrecognizable, like physically, and like even just his performance, especially like the other movies I've seen him in are movies like Devil Wears Prada or The Hunger Games, where he's like quite charismatic and
Yeah.
upbeat. But this movie, yeah, he's so like he's just eerie and creepy. Everything
Oh
about him,
really?
like the way, and he's got this weird like chewing thing that he does that just kind of adds to it somehow. Him being like a creep, but again, that was another movie where the acting by and large was amazing in it, but he kind of stood out just because he's. I think as well because you're used to him being a certain way and playing a certain character, it was even more impressive when
Yeah.
he was when it was such like a a difference to what he normally does. So yeah, that was my choices. I
I
could have
like
gone on forever, but I decided against it.
I massively applaud your choices. In particular, Stanley Tucci, who
Thank
I've
you.
got a lot of love for as well. And yeah, as soon as you mentioned him, I was like, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense because like I think he's one of those actors that he turns up in anything, and you're just like, okay, yes, here we go, and you know that like whatever like the quality of like the maybe the film around him or the production around him, you know that he's gonna be like good, he's gonna be enjoyable, like he's always like a sort of magnetic screen presence, and
Yeah, definitely.
that counts for a lot, and yeah, I'd say to my great shame, I think I've only seen Kate Winslet in Titanic and what's the what's the Christmas film she's in? The Holiday. Is it The Holiday with
The
Jack
Holiday.
Black and yeah,
It's a good one in fairness.
yeah. No, it is indeed, and she is really good in that as well. But I feel like I actually like I don't know Kate Winslet well enough as an actress, to really
That's
like
fair.
rate her personally. But that's like I guess my question would be like, do you would you ever go see a movie just because these people are involved in it, or is it just more like a sort of sweetener if you go see something and it turns out they're in it?
No, I would definitely go and see it. I think I've seen a fair few of Kate Winslet's movies because I'm a fan of her. So I'll like go out of my way to watch her movies or movies that she's
Fair.
in. Um, Same with actually we watched that movie Luca the other day, which is on Disney
Is it
Plus,
good?
and it's yeah, it's pretty good. Um, but it's the main character is played by that Jacob Tremblay guy. So I was
Fair.
like, do you know that way I was sitting there and I was like, we could watch this new film Luca.
That's very fair, actually, and
Would
good to
you?
sort
Would
of
you
hear.
go and see a movie just for the actor?
I don't think I would, to be honest. Which
No.
I don't think so. No, I think there would have to be like something. I'm trying to think of an exception to this because I think there definitely has been a time when I've had no interest in something and an actor has kind of got me like to pay attention to it. But I think no, just because I know how like I mean Michael Caine's sort of the best example of like he will just do anything
Very good
because
point.
at the end of the day actors got to eat. Um, but I've always found it interesting the fact that people do. Like yeah, they're just like drawn to, and again it makes sense. And the fact that like sometimes sometimes you're drawn to an actor because they play like the same character and everything. Sometimes it's like the opposite. Like you know, I feel like Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I don't think Doolittle did very good, but I would imagine that like he's going to be playing basically Iron Man for for a while, or at least he'll be doing it here and there,
Yeah.
and there'll be movies that make like crazy money because of that fact. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
so yeah, I think
I remember though when I was young, like I still am. unashamedly obsessed with like Leonardo DiCaprio. Like I was just in love with him.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was one of the ones where I've watched just about all of his movies, even like the really old ones or ones that
Yeah.
maybe people haven't heard of, and yeah.
To be fair, DiCaprio has got some like pool of movies under him. I actually one of the ones I was because again I was just like analyzing my own like sort of taste in acting and actors when I was like sort of comparing my own answers for this, and I found this like weird not almost anomaly I guess where like so Brad Pitt um maybe has like out of like all the actors I could think of off the top of my head anyway, or at least all the ones I could think of when I was like looking at it, sort of preparing answers for this, Brad Pitt probably has like the strongest like series of films under him. Like there's so many. I always forget just like how many films I like really like with Brad Pitt in them. Um, but at the same time, and I also think he's a fantastic actor. But for some reason,
Yeah.
he would like not. It just didn't come to mind at all when I was like trying to think of like my sort of favorite actors. And I feel like I
100%
don't
same. That's a shame.
don't yeah, I don't know why that is because like he turns up in something he's always brilliant in it, like he always delivers. But there's something about him that just doesn't like I don't know, maybe leave the impression that it should. And I think that's just like a subjective thing. But sorry, Brad, if you're watching this, which I'm sure he is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Um, but no, my pick. I only have the one pick for this. I did have like a second sort of choice. But I'm going to talk about them later on anyway. So I'm like gonna refrain from mentioning them just now. But my choice for this is Michael Fassbender.
Oh,
Who
good
like
choice.
I mean, he's mostly done like sort of like genre films that I'd like personally am quite attached to or attracted to. But I think like everything I've really seen him in, he always like completely crushes it, and I pretty much always like at some point, if not the whole time, like wowed by his performance. Like he just always seems to like deliver on such a high level. And I think like, yeah, there is just something about like him as an actor. I think he's got really like he does pick projects really well. And it actually like it seems I went on his IMDb just to kind of refresh myself before like for this podcast, and he's not really filmed anything since like 2017, by the looks of
Oh
it,
yeah.
which is yeah, I think he's done like an X-Men movie since then, and that's like it, which is really weird. No idea why.
Did you not
But
get
yeah,
married recently?
that might explain it if he did.
That's maybe been it.
Yeah, but yeah, Fassbender is my pick. Like I just think that
Very good choice.
yeah, he's like so like dependable, and again like you can have a film that is like subpar, and he will still like elevate it. Again, I talked about this in another podcast, but Prometheus I think is a really good example of a film that like
Yeah,
by all rights should have been better. And there's
that's
a
what I was.
lot
That's actually the movie I was thinking of when you said him. I was like, oh yeah, he
exact
was so good in that.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it's like he's in a different film, and almost like I think it makes it hard to like reconcile your feelings in the film because you're like, but he was so good in that movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more like I guess like impressive the fact that he's playing like an android, but they've like the Alien movies have like always sort of had androids in them, so it's like even more impressive that he is then like in my opinion like by far like the standout of the android like characters and the android actors. Despite the fact that he's like the third one that's come along, at least
Yeah.
maybe no more than that fourth one that's come along. So yeah, like all my love and all my respect to Michael Fassbender.
No, very good choice.
Thank you very much. Cool. So with the sort of favorite one out of the way, with our sort of baseline of our tastes established, I thought we'd move on to the next category, which is motion capture. So which actors is your pick? Which performance is your pick for motion capture, Catherine?
I think you couldn't talk about motion capture without talking about Andy Serkis. So of course, one of his performances was one of my choices.
Fair.
But I decided to go for him playing Caesar in
Oh yes.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I think that movie's so good. I think all of those kind of reboots, not like the Mark Wahlberg one, but the reboots, those ones are so good. And I think when I was thinking back to it, like there's a whole like obviously there's like the whole movie's about like the transformation of Caesar, but you can see it like physically in the performance, he genuinely goes from being a monkey or an ape to being like this leader, and he's like he's like standing up and he's like leading all these people and he's talking to them and he's like encouraging them um to fight, and like this is why you need to do this, that, and the next thing. um so yeah, I thought that was probably my favorite performance of him, because as we know, I'm not crazy on Lord of the Rings, so I didn't think picking Gollum was fair.
That is
But
very fair.
yeah, I think because as well that movie's funny because he's kind of like almost like the main character, even though like James Franco's got like a big role, and is Michael Caine not in that as well? No, it's
So he is. He is, isn't it? Isn't he?
no, I think it's that. Is it not that other guy that's in?
Oh yeah,
Is
no,
it?
it is. You're right. But I just had a total.
It's
No, you're right.
it's
It is the
yeah.
other guy. But I had a total Mandela moment there
He could
where
easily have been played by Michael Caine though. Yeah,
I know Michael Caine obviously just didn't get to his phone in time for that one.
exactly.
Not actually seen those
But
movies in
yeah, no, I
ages.
think that was they're so good. I like the original Planet of the Apes as well, but no motion capture in that, unfortunately.
I've never seen it, to be honest. But the funny thing
Oh
is like
no, it's good.
my like yeah, my like one of my two choices was this exact pick, Andy Serkis for Planet
No
of the
way.
Apes, because yeah, genuinely,
That's
because like
amazing.
I completely agree with you on every level. Like I think he is like ridiculously good in the role, and I think as well it's the fact that it's like he is playing like an ape, he's playing like a monkey effectively. Like it's something that's like the fact that he's able to do it in such a convincing way, in such a moving way, and as you said, like there's development, there's growth, and there's like so much nuance to the performance as well is just insane. Especially since I think like Rise of the Planet of the Apes is now like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I think like I remember at the time like just reading reports and stuff about it being made, and it was just like one of those things where like reboots, like prequels, that sort of thing, or like they're always like a big cash grab thing, and it's almost like Hollywood just like looks at any franchise that people like know the name of and just try and like milk it for all it's worth. And you would never I hadn't even seen Planet of the Apes, but even then I was like, okay, well, Planet of the Apes is like is hailed as a classic, but one of the big reasons is really because it has this like big twist ending.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just don't see how like what potential there is in that like franchise, but somehow they like managed to make this really interesting like character driven like drama
Yeah.
about like yeah, and it's that's the sort of that's it, is like is there's not as much action as you might think. There's a lot more like focus on character, but again, even that was just like the ballsiest choice when you're really working with like one human and mostly focusing on one like animated character. um
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I like absolutely love your choice. Like Andy Serkis as
Thank you.
Caesar is
Great minds.
ridiculously good. Yeah, exactly.
I think that one's funny as well because it's like a weird choice. He does it so well that you kind of like root for him and you can understand where he's coming from, but I'm like rooting for him leads to like the destruction of the human race as we know it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's a very, very good point, actually. Yeah, you're so on his side, despite the fact that his enemy is us.
Yeah.
Every like survival instinct should really tell you to not like root for the monkey, but you kind
Yeah.
of do. Yeah, he's so
I
good.
didn't know that Andy Serkis was also King Kong. Did you know that?
I honestly, I feel like that's information that I at one point knew, but no, like,
Yeah.
that's that was his like warm up monkey gig.
It must have been. But I'm like, do you know that way? Because I'm like, was that necessary? Surely you could just have looked at maybe like an actual gorilla.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because yeah, there's like he is just playing like a big gorilla.
Yeah, and King Kong doesn't really like. Sure, he looks sad at points, but like he doesn't have a
Yeah.
huge range of emotion.
No, exactly. There's not much going on there in terms of that performance. I guess that makes the Planet of the Apes ones even more impressive. Then the fact that you literally have seen the same thing done before, and done by Peter Jackson as well, who was the one that
Yeah,
basically invented the whole mocap thing, and yet somehow he was like completely usurped with the Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah, no, very very good choice. My pick.
thank you.
So I didn't go for I didn't go for Gollum. Or mostly because
For
we've talked
Gollum.
talked about him before, just because we talked about him before, and yeah, I feel like I've said enough with regards to Gollum. But my choice isn't a million miles away from him. I've gone for
Amazing.
the much more underrated Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug the dragon from the
Oh
Hobbit
yeah.
movies, because I really think that I honestly was so impressed. That was almost like the Gollum moment again. I remember going to see the second Hobbit movie, and they'd done a really good job of not really showing Smaug off in the trailers. Like they'd obviously teased him, you'd seen bits of him and stuff, but they didn't. I had no idea the sort of extent that we were going to get to see him, and how much Benedict Cumberbatch was really going to get to do in the role. And he's just again, I think honestly, considering that he's Gollum at least is a humanoid sort of creature,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Benedict Cumberbatch is literally playing a dragon. And
Yeah.
I think if you've ever this is one of my favorite facts about it as well, is he got in dragon shape for the role. He worked out a specific, yeah, I know, he worked out a specific way to try and
Wow.
make his body as dragon as possible. But if you ever seen, I don't know if you ever
That's
seen
amazing.
the behind the scenes where he's filming it.
Yeah, and he's slithering on the floor.
Yeah, and that again just makes it all the more impressive, I think, because it's the most ridiculous looking thing. He's just got this hard hat with a camera and all these dots and this grey leotard,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you say, he is literally just scuttling about the floor, and he absolutely gives it his all. And yeah, I honestly was completely blown away by his performance as Smaug, and I feel it's never really talked about because of the fact that the Hobbit movies aren't held in that high of a regard. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that he's often just kind of washed away and forgotten about. And to sort of to make it things even more impressive, he actually Benedict Cumberbatch actually plays two characters in the film, two motion capture characters. He also plays the
Oh yeah.
necromancer. So he's literally both villains in the movie. And I had no idea about that until after I'd seen the film and I was reading a review and it mentioned that Cumberbatch was both characters, and I was that's even more impressive that he's
That's
also
pretty
playing a
cool.
second character in the film, and you don't at no point
Yeah.
do you realize or think about it, but he makes both of them really distinct. Um, so yeah, big up. I
Yeah.
mean,
Good
big up Lord of the
choice.
Rings,
I actually,
but
yeah, I haven't. I've seen bits of one of the Hobbit movies, but so I couldn't really comment, unfortunately.
fair. Well, if
But
anyone's gonna watch,
I do like him as an actor.
yeah, if anyone's ever gonna watch any of the Hobbit movies, the second one's the one you need to go for. I think it is the best structured, the best sort of built, the best paced, has the most going on visually and stylistically, and has a sweet conclusion with a big dragon.
Yeah. What more could you want?
Exactly, the dream. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Our next sort of category is comedy. So we'll obviously go on for a pick of our favorite comedy performances. So Catherine, what was yours?
So I've got three, and they're all pretty different. So my first one, and the one that always immediately springs to mind, is Jason Statham in Spy.
Oh my god.
He's so funny, and that is a movie full of funny people, like
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy, Rose Byrne, Miranda Hart's in it as well, and he just shines. And he's hysterical, his absolute expressionless deadpan delivery is perfect. You can tell that he's having fun with it as well, because it's
Yeah.
the character's almost a caricature of Jason Statham characters, because some of his characters are ridiculous. Um, in this movie, there's even one little section when he's sitting talking to Melissa McCarthy's character, when he's rhyming off all these crazy badass things that he's done, and some of them are so ridiculous. Like one point, he said that he lost an arm and he sewed it back on with the other arm. And it's just and that movie's so well written as well that
Yeah.
some of the lines on their own are hysterical, but the way that he delivers them just makes them even funnier. And as I say, a
Fantastic.
difficult thing to do when you're in a movie with Melissa McCarthy as well, who's
Very true.
always hysterical.
Yeah. And has a lot of energy as well.
So yeah, yeah, that movie's so good, honestly, hilarious. But I digress. My second choice was actually Marilyn Monroe in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
I've never seen that.
Have you seen it?
No, I've not. The only
No,
Marilyn
it's
Monroe movie
very
I've
good.
seen
It's
is Some Like It Hot.
not my fave.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is so funny. It's Jane Russell that's in it as well. She's really funny as well. But Marilyn Monroe, she's got like, I feel like her comedy is so like understated. I feel like she just gets the the character that she's playing, and
Yeah.
she does it so well that it's like almost subtle how good she is. Because like her character's this like ditzy blonde, and she likes rich men, and she's just happily going about her life kind of thing. Um, but it's the same kind of thing where some of the lines are so funny, and she like misunderstands things, and but the way that she delivers them is like she like you actually believe that that she's misunderstood that, or that she
Yeah.
genuinely thinks these things. But as I say, Jane Russell's good in it as well. She's very funny. She's a very different character to Marilyn's character, but I think that that's good as well because they like bounce off each other as well. Because I think they were good pals in real life as well.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm getting carried away again. And my last choice is a very British choice, but I stand by it. And that is Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean.
Fantastic. That is peak British.
Because, yeah, and see the movie when he's in America, I think, is it Mr. Bean Goes to Hollywood or something? It's just, he's so funny. Like, Mr. Bean is a classic and he's hilarious at all times, but when he's, especially when you like juxtapose him with American people,
Yeah.
like that's just amazing. And then there's like he does this like nice, like his comedy isn't like overly slapsticky and annoying in that way. It's just like funny. Like there's the bit when he gets splashed by the tap and he's trying to dry himself off, and he's like thingying up under the dryer, like moving along with it, and then the guy comes in and he just to pretend he's looking out the window, and it's just so funny. Just like the misunderstandings
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
between
exactly.
him and like other people are just hysterical.
It's interesting as well
And
because
yeah, one of
sorry. He's like such a sort
no,
of
sorry, I was just
strange.
gonna
Apologies, I'll let you go.
sorry, no, I was just gonna say quickly. One of my favorite parts of that movie is when he's spoiled the painting and he's taken it away and he's got it and he's got like a sheet over it so it looks like a table, and he's like thingying down the hallway with it, and it's like squeaking, and then there's another table comes in the opposite direction and he has to be like whoa, and then he like flips the table up. Comedy gold. Honestly, me and my brother used to do that like all the time. Just have like a bit of cardboard or something, be like
Yeah,
so funny. I thought it was the funniest thing ever when I was wee.
quite right. I think that's the thing. Like it's the thing that I love about Mr. Bean is the fact that like every other character is like the straight man. He's just
Yeah.
this like really really weird like being that just exists in like the normal world. And it is
Yeah.
weird because like you would think that like normally in like comedies you like the world would bend more, like there would be more sort of like silliness to sort
Mm-hmm.
of like um allow you to sort of buy into like Mr. Bean's silliness, but they don't really have that. He's just, he is just like so like off the wall different to everyone around him, but it works so
Yeah.
well because of it. And yeah, like you can all you like there's literally no way to predict where like those films are going as well. Like they just go in like the strangest directions.
Yeah.
And every single time you there's like always like a weird plausibility to like everything that's happening. Um,
Yeah, that's true. But oh
yeah.
yeah, I'm just thinking of more things that happen in that movie, like when he stuffs a whole turkey in a microwave.
Oh,
Oh,
he's so good.
classic.
I know. Yeah.
What did you go
Yeah.
for?
I'd like I feel so ashamed of my choices now compared to yours. Yours are so good. I yeah, like my like comedic vocabulary probably isn't as large as it ought to be. I kind of find that I don't really watch comedies unless I'm with people, and then they're always a
Oh
nightmare
yeah.
to like they're always a nightmare to like pick or decide on because you always like trying to find one that like no one's seen is always like really difficult.
Yeah.
So I feel like my like comedic vocabulary is like fairly limited. And obviously my first sort of pick for this, as you know, was Peter Sellers in Doctor Strangelove, which I watched recently, who like impressed me for a number of reasons. But the choice that I'm going to go with, which is a very different direction from yours, but probably not that surprising a pick for me, is Chris Hemsworth in Thor Ragnarok. Purely
Okay.
because like Thor Ragnarok is like an out and out comedy, but it's also the third Thor movie, And I think the like fifth movie with Chris Evans playing like Chris Hemsworth, sorry, playing Thor, and yet he like the character is like pretty much reinvented, while remaining like in its own way consistent, but it's pretty much reinvented as like a comedy character in that movie. And I honestly like feel like that's something that I almost can't believe that they actually did. To just take this like popular superhero character and they're like, well, we're just gonna make him an idiot and he's just gonna like he's just gonna be like really dumb now, and it works so well, and almost like it feels like that is the movie where like he clicks in that role. And he is like crazy funny to the point that you're just like, why was he not doing this in all the other movies he was in?
Yeah.
Like he's gone from like one of the most boring characters around to just like the funniest guy about. And
That's
but he
funny.
also,
I've only seen.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I've only seen the first Thor movie. I do remember the funny bit though, where he's drank a cup of coffee and he just throws it on the ground and shouts another.
I love that bit. That
That's
bit,
very
I remember
funny.
like seeing that in the cinema and it had me floored. But they really underutilize. They sort of like go from the more sort of Shakespearean theatrical side of the character for like most of it, I think, which makes sense with like the drama that they're doing. But in Ragnarok, he's just they really play up like the sort of like silliness of the character, and how sort of like daft he is, and it works. I honestly think it works so well to the point where like in the next Avengers movies, they basically make that his character, like that is just his character from now on, and he does still have dramatic moments, he does still have like scenes of like heft and stuff that he does really well, but they actually work so much better. You care about him so much more because he's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny. That's a good point.
he has all of my respect for like it wouldn't have been as impressive if he was like that right out of the gate, but it's the fact that he actually just like course corrects, and suddenly you're like, oh, there's this really funny person in there that just wasn't like, this is like where his potential lay, and they kind of just find it like at just the right time. And obviously Taika Waititi is
Yeah.
probably the best director you could ask for to bring that out in someone, because I think like all of his films are absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But no, that was a good choice. I wonder if that's because I haven't seen it. Shocker. But that tends to be people's favorite Thor movie. I wonder if that's why.
I think it is. I think like there definitely seemed to be like a really strong reaction when it came out, and I think that was. I mean, the movie is also like really well done, really like shot really nicely and stuff. There's some really like beautiful like sort of cinematography, some really nice colors. But yeah, I think the comedy is what like that's the thing. I think it's as much as like Marvel movies tend to have like humor and tend to have a lot of jokes and stuff peppered in there. They are like almost like sort of actiony comedies, and they are like that. But whereas Thor Ragnarok really felt like the one that they were like, no, this is just an out and out comedy. And I'm not saying there's not any drama in it, because there is, but you don't really feel walking away from it. You're like, I was just laughing most of the time, and it felt
Yeah.
like that's what the movie wanted. It feels like a sort of safe movie almost when you're watching it, like comedies kind of do. I think where like you're just like at ease and you're just like in this comfortable place watching it the whole time. So yeah, I think like, but yeah, Chris Hemsworth is obviously the star of the film, and with good reason.
Yeah. Interesting choice.
So
Very
one
good.
one to check out if you can ever put up with the
Yeah.
Marvelness.
I think if I was gonna watch any of them, I mean, I quite liked the first Thor movie, but it was a while ago that I watched it, so
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure I'll get around to it at some point.
That was also 10 years ago that one came out.
Oh, yeah? Jesus.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, moving swiftly away from that bleakness. Our next category, which I believe you thought was the hardest one to pick for, and I pretty much agree, is international performance. What has
Yeah.
been your favourite international performance?
So, like you were saying, this one was really difficult because obviously you're not really used to watching as many foreign movies, so maybe that like really narrowed down your choice. And then I think it was the more I was thinking about it, I think it's quite difficult to determine how good someone is if you don't understand the language that they're speaking.
I agree.
So like so you could be watching a movie thinking, oh yeah, this is pretty good, and then like someone who is a native speaker of that language could be like, god, that person was terrible in that movie, or like bang average. But because we don't know
Yeah.
what they're saying, or like, because you've spoken about it before, where you spend so much time reading the subtitles that sometimes you miss like what's happening in the movie.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So yeah, this one was the hardest. Yeah. So this one was the hardest one. I think one choice that I wanted to talk about quickly was, we've spoken about it before, was um God, I wish I'd picked people who didn't have his names is difficult to pronounce. It's basically the girl that's she plays Cleo in Roma,
Excellent.
and I think I basically picked her because she was very like natural the whole way through. It felt kind of like there was like a kind of like documentary feel to it. And part of that was because obviously she was so good, and I think when you think about the fact that I'm sure she was like a teacher, and then this was like her first movie, and she was
Oh,
just
really?
kind of trying her hand at it. Yeah, so I think um that was one that kind of stuck out, and then the other one, which is this was a difficult one because have you seen the movie Priceless, the French movie?
I've not. No.
No, it's like a French rom com. It's really good. I really enjoy it. But the main woman is Audrey Tautou. She's in a lot of movies. You've she's in that one. Is it Amelie? It's called.
My
You
mum loves that
probably
movie.
you'd know the cover, yeah, if you'd seen it.
Yeah.
But so she's in it, and the movie's really really good. And I would always like that would always be a kind of like a first port of call for like a foreign movie. Um, I do like French rom coms. I just think they've got just this cool feel about them. But
Yeah.
she kind of I think as well they're a bit more serious maybe than like Western or like American and British rom coms, where so basically this movie she like essentially she's like a con artist, and it kind of goes her character kind of grows from this like from what the people like her victims or whatever see like this cute and sweet and innocent girl, and that you want to do everything for, and then it kind of grows and you should see how like calculating she is and
Yeah.
manipulative. But yeah, I think that was but yeah, so she does that, and but the whole way through you still kind of root for her, but that could just be because she's cool in French. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. But it sounds like there's a nice like evolution sort of layering to the character that like actually makes it like
Yeah,
a sort of like a three-dimensional sort of substantial performance rather than it just being like, especially with a comedy where it's quite easy for it to just be like a one note thing. Um
yeah.
yeah,
But no, it's definitely a performance that stuck in my mind, so that's kind of why I chose it. But I'm
fair.
interested to hear what your choices are.
I very much enjoyed your picks. I think Cleo from Roma was one that came to mind as well, and apparently they interviewed like that was I think one of the hardest parts of like the sort of pre-production for that movie. I'm sure Alfonso Cuarón said that they went through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people trying to get the right person, because obviously with it being something with it being like based on his own personal experience, I think he had a very like specific idea for this character, and like you say, the fact that it's like this actress's like first like proper gig makes it all the more impressive. And like you say as well, she is very naturalistic. Like you completely buy into her as the character. It does feel like documentarian. It doesn't feel like she's ever putting on a
Yeah,
performance that she's acting, and that's even more impressive when you consider how long the takes are and so on and so forth. So yeah, like
true.
very 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 good pick. Obviously the second one, I haven't seen the film or maybe any of
Fair.
her films. So I can't unfortunately speak to her work, but I like the reasoning behind your pick. And as you sort of mentioned as well, like I think I completely agree that it is really tough to sort of pick an international performance, and like you say, when you're watching the film, you like because you have to read the subtitles, you are missing like a lot of the performance, and you're missing, and obviously the fact that you're not really, even though yes you hear what they're saying, you don't know the language, so you don't really know the effort and the like intones and the inflections and stuff that are going on, so you don't
Yeah.
really get that layer of the performance. You just kind of get like the visual acting, which is why for my pick, I've gone for disappointingly, I've got two choices, but my main one, disappointingly, is actually an American actor. Um,
Okay.
but the reason I've gone for them is because they have acted internationally, and they have done it so well without use of vocals, for the most part, or at least the things I've seen them in. It has basically been like a sort of theatrical body performance, and it is like completely nailed it. So my pick is Doug Jones,
Oh,
who
good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I have also spoke about like the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth before as being utterly terrifying and something that's
That's
forever
so
imprinted.
funny because I was gonna go with the guy who played the captain in Pan's Labyrinth. So it's funny that you chose someone who's also in Pan's
Wow.
Labyrinth.
Yeah, well, Pan's Labyrinth was like my first sort of like the first place my mind went to when I was like at international performances because I love that film so much and I think everyone like totally brings it in that film. But yeah, I think like for all the issues that I've obviously we both outlined having with like being able to like really absorb and appreciate like international performances, I think he cuts like through all of that by just being this like again
Yeah.
he just does this like body performance and you so buy into like there's like he basically like the whole creep factor from that character just comes from the way he like sort of performs it and
Yep.
it's the same with like anything he's really in like he does so much non-verbally that it's kind of like and it's just yeah like I appreciate that so much because it must be so difficult to lose like especially like he's in prosthetics and stuff all the time and to lose really like your main tools as an actor to lose your voice to lose your face to lose your eyes
Because
um
he's in Shape of Water as well, isn't he? With
yes
Del
indeed
Toro again.
yeah well he's in like pants he's in Hellboy as well and yeah they do love working together but you can totally see
Yeah, is he
why
not the fawn as well in Pan's Labyrinth?
that would make sense. Because yeah, I was gonna say shout out to whoever plays the fawn, but if it's the same guy, then that kind of takes
That's
care of that.
impressive as well because he speaks to her. The fawn speaks to her in Spanish, and I'm
Yeah,
sure it's actually him speaking. So like when he even when he does get to speak, it's not even in English.
yeah, and he hides his American American accent very well with that. Because
Yeah,
yeah, don't I never questioned the the fawn's legitimacy and his accent. Um, but yeah, no,
you know,
I
very
have.
good choice.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of love for Doug Jones. I'm for an actual like international choice, and again, I've gone like a very different direction. Before again for like the reasons outlined. But I kind of and I also, to my great shame, haven't really seen all that many foreign films, all that many international movies. Again, that's something that I've like made more of an effort to sort of get on top of lately. But still, like, is the case that there's like a world out there of movies, and I've only like
Yeah.
scratched the surface. So I went for a pick that where I have seen a few of their films, and they are just like reliably entertaining every single time, and also there is a physicality to their performance. So my second pick was Jackie Chan. Um,
Wow, that wasn't where I thought you were going.
it took me ages to even think of him as well, but I just like I absolutely
Oh
love Jackie Chan. I
yeah.
think like, and he obviously is everyone knows he's done all his own stunts and broken like every bone in his body probably more than once, which is mental because I've not even broken one of mine.
Yeah,
But yeah,
same.
he just like there's so much like even he may not win like an Oscar for like most dramatic acting, but at the same time like he's just so reliably entertaining and he basically has a brand,
Yeah,
but he like he fills that like so perfectly that there isn't another Jackie Chan, like you get the one and that's it.
true.
Like he is like a single entity. He's so unique in like the sort of niche that he's carved himself. And I think like he is a proper household name. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, or if I've been unreliably informed, apparently they actually created, I think in Mandarin, like the most recent character of their like language that they created, is effectively called like the Jackie Chan character. Is like
That's
named
amazing.
after him.
Yeah, because
So
there's like such a thing as like a Jackie Chan movie.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And not even because like cuz he also was a director himself, but not even like when you say a Jackie Chan movie, that's not
Yeah.
what you think of. You don't think of like the films that he's like behind the camera for. You think of like him in the movie and like yeah, I think like if he's in a movie with like other people, it is a Jackie Chan movie. It's it's
Yeah.
his film. It belongs to him no matter who he's like sort of sharing the screen with. And with like with good reason. And I always feel like the films that I've seen him in have always like put him to like such good use. Like he always
Yeah.
gets to do it. It's always like these crazy like because there is like again like a theatricality to like the sort of stunts he's doing, the fights that he's doing. Have you ever seen the Shanghai movies, Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights?
I haven't actually,
I
no.
I absolutely love them. Again, like ones that I was obsessed with as a kid. And it's him basically as he's like a sort of the emperor's guard, one of the emperor's guards. And he goes like over to the west, in like cowboy times, and Owen Wilson's a cowboy. And they sort of like, yeah, exactly. They're like, that's the sort of like classic mismatched pair. But they're both movies are just brilliant. In the sequel, they go to London, and there's a fight scene that's basically just like the sort of song dance number to Singing in the Rain. But it just has there's just like a musical cue in the background, and Jackie Chan's just like mimicking all the choreography while he's just like taking down these guys, and it's just like a
That's
completely
amazing.
accidental thing within the movie, but it's so like, yeah, it's so perfectly done because it kind of just comes out of nowhere and then happens, and then the movie just moves right on. It doesn't like make any kind of fuss about it. But yeah, even as a kid, and even having seen Singing in the Rain, I was like, that is genius.
That's funny.
Yeah, so those are my
Good
two
choice.
very very
Interesting
different
choice.
picks.
I never even like I had kind of thought, and I was thinking about people like kind of Stellan Skarsgård. He's always very good.
Yeah.
All of his sons are very good as well. Um, but no, that was Jackie Chan's a really good choice actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Need more Jackie Chan films. Anyway,
Exactly.
to move on to the second last category. This one we are going for ensemble, which again we've kind of like mentioned, touched on that sort of idea before. But yeah, the idea of which ensemble we sort of like the best ensemble performances that we appreciate the most. So again, over to you.
Thank you. I think I'm kind of mad now because I can see some of the movies behind you, and I'm like, God damn it. But this one actually, when I was thinking about it for a while, it did take me a while to like kind of settle on a few of them. One of them I've spoken about before, so I'll just mention it briefly. Is the movie Bridesmaids because it's hysterical, and like I've said before, every one of
Absolutely.
the women in that are hilarious. Um, and they each I mean, they're a little bit. Some of them are like the kind of side characters, are a little bit caricaturish, but they all work really well together. As like a group of women as well. So yeah, that was my first choice. Another choice was, and this is technically two movies, is Murder on the Orient Express. Now
Oh wow.
I've seen both of them. I've seen the old one, which was '74, and then the Kenneth Branagh one, which was 2017.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this is a story, obviously based on an Agatha Christie book, but that is a story that like is perfect for an ensemble cast because
Yeah.
the whole story is this group of people who are trapped on this train, and it's like their interactions with people, and Poirot trying to find out who the murderer was. And I read as well that the obviously the 1974 version was one of the only adaptations that Agatha Christie herself actually liked,
Oh
because I think
wow.
she like notoriously hated all of the other adaptations of her work.
Classic. Classic writer.
And I think as well, yeah, the both movies had like really really good casts. The new one in particular, obviously, I'm a big fan of Kenneth Branagh. I think he's great.
Yeah.
And he was a really good Poirot as well. Like he was a little bit funny and a little bit caricaturish, but I think that's just the character of Poirot. And then there was a lot of like there was such a variety of actors. So there was like British actors, and then American. There was like old and young. There was like Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. Johnny Depp. Daisy Riley was that her name
Daisy
from Star
Ridley.
Wars.
Yeah.
She was in it as
Yeah.
well. Daisy Ridley. Yep. So yeah, that was really good. And there's this great. As I said, it's just a story that makes for like a perfect ensemble movie.
I completely agree.
And I think they did it really well in both movies, which is funny because I had started reading the book recently, and it was very much like almost verbatim. Obviously, the movie's taken it from the book, but I've seen them the other way around. I've seen the movie then read the book, so it was like
Yeah.
almost verbatim.
Wow.
So I think it's funny that they've obviously recognised, oh, that'll be like such a because all her stories are quite like obviously clever stories, but yeah, as I say, that one works perfectly as like an ensemble piece. And then my last choice was the movie Mean Girls because yeah,
Fantastic.
I think yeah. I think when you think about it, especially, there's a lot of the actors in it have gone on to be like pretty big names. Like Rachel McAdams is in it, Amanda
Yeah.
Seyfried's in it as well, Lindsay Lohan. she's a great actress. I'm not
Yeah,
even gonna lie. And
no, I agree.
the woman that plays Janice Ian, I can't remember her name right now, but she's in a lot of things as well. Um, I think that's obviously testament to Tina Fey who wrote it. So it's very well written, so the characters actually feel kind of real.
Yeah,
Like when you think about school, like there were people like that, and that is how they reacted with they interacted, sorry, with each other and with other
yeah,
people, and all the little cliques in the dining room and stuff. But yeah, I think it's obviously Lindsay Lohan's. She's the main character, but it wouldn't be the movie if like the plastics weren't in it, or Janice and Damien and things like that, and even like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, who are both amazing.
yeah.
Their little side characters are like a bit of like comic relief, which is nice because there's bits in the movie where it's obviously super like they're getting dead into it and it's getting a bit catty.
Yeah,
So their kind of comic relief is nice as well.
absolutely. No, I completely agree. That is, yeah, I like all three of your choices, in like different ways, and I think you're right. Like, I mean, there's a reason that Mean Girls is like stood the test of time and is quoted so much, all of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, my work, to go like slightly personal, my work has a cocktail called the Mean Girl, and you get like Mean
Oh
Girl
yeah.
quotes. Yeah, like you get Mean Girl quotes pegged to it. And people order them all the time. They're so popular. People absolutely love a Mean Girl, and people always love like the quotes. And yeah, like it's not just as you said, really well written movie, but it's not just the writing that like makes the like as like has the lasting appeal. It's the way that it's delivered, and as you said as well, like there is a really strong cast, like a much stronger cast than you kind of like would initially think. But
Yeah.
there are like almost like so many dark horse actors in there. And yeah, it was like peak Lindsay Lohan at when she was like at her peak. And I
Yeah.
do agree. I think she is a fantastic actor. I think she's really, really good. And yeah, she completely delivers in that movie. Um, Obviously Bridesmaids again, another one we talked about. And again, like they really do like there's like a number again of like really strong actors and actresses and a number of like comedians who work in different ways and are funny for different reasons, and they manage to sort of like work so well in tandem with each other without like
Yeah.
effectively like stepping on each other's toes or like hogging the limelight. Everyone kind of like delivers in their own way, the way they should. And then Murder on the Orient Express. I've not seen the original, the 74 version, but I have seen the Kenneth Branagh one, the 2017 one. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like I think murder mysteries really do lend themselves, especially the Agatha Christie style, really do lend
Yeah.
themselves to like a good ensemble. And that is like that was I mean that is probably an example where I remember seeing like the announced cast for that movie and just thinking like, okay, wow, like I'm pretty much sold on this
Yeah.
already. I mean, I guess
Yeah. It was just like star after star after star, wasn't it?
exact, yeah, and like different generational things again, as you sort of mentioned, and it kind of makes you really interested because you're like, well, any scene that these characters are in, I'm going to be enjoying, I'm going to be interested, I'm going to be
Yeah.
entertained, and there's going to be a lot going on. So, yeah, no, like I completely respect and I very much dig all your choices.
Thank you.
Got to sort of build on the murder mystery thing, obviously, as you can potentially glean from behind me, one of my picks for ensemble would be Knives Out, the Ryan Johnson movie, because like I almost like always forget every time I watch it, like just how many like good actors are in it. It's also got your boy Michael Shannon in it.
I was
Um,
just about to say that.
exactly, making a yeah. He absolutely nails comedies, doesn't he? Or comedic moments
Yeah.
anyway, between Kangaroo Jack and Knives Out. Um, but yeah,
They're about on par, I'd
yeah,
say.
exactly. But yeah, I think the thing I like about Knives Out as well is that it's got all these like big actors, but they're all like all the characters they perform are both believable, but also like funny, and they just like it's taken in. Is there different performances than like what I at least have seen? Like Daniel Craig is giving a very different performance to Bond, despite also being the sort of lead. You have obviously I think the other one that always like stands out is Tony Collette, who is just,
Toni
especially like
Collette is outstanding. Why
so
wasn't she
good.
my choice for best actress? I don't know.
That's a
She
good
should
point,
be.
actually. Yeah, she
That's
should have been. She actually should have been my pick as well. I'm now ashamed of myself too for not
I
picking
know,
Toni Collette
same.
because she's a powerhouse of a performer.
Yeah,
And yeah,
she's
to go from like
outstanding.
to go from Hereditary to Knives Out, which I think I watched them not like far apart, and she's just like so different. In Knives Out, but so entertaining. So yeah. Also, obviously, wanted to mention the
Very
likes
good
of
choice.
the Avengers movies, but they kind of feel like a cheat because they do all get their own movie to set them up. So
Yeah.
it is a bit unfair to be like, yeah, well, they're great ensemble. That's the whole point. Um, but my main sort of pick for this, the main one I wanted to talk about, and I like actually came up with this quite late on. I kind of realized it quite late on. But my pick for this would be the Pythons, from like Monty Python and the Holy Grail or Life of
Yeah.
Brian, because they obviously the both those movies are just them effectively playing like numerous characters in different scenes to
True.
like varying degrees of like silliness and comedy. And I think the thing that like stands out is, I mean, they're hilarious anyway, and there's obviously like, so many like quotable lines and moments in those movies. But the fact that like there's not a single dull one. You never like roll your eyes when one of them turns
True.
up playing another character. You never like don't buy into it. You always they like somehow manage to like land joke after joke after joke, and a lot of it's like they're all playing like different characters, but it never pulls you out the experience. It works so well, and it like completely makes those films. And I think yeah, like it doesn't matter which of them are playing off each other, they always like completely nail it. And you're not, yeah, whichever one of them like turns up as a new character, you're never gonna be like, oh, not that Python. Like they're all
Yeah,
absolutely
that's such a good
hilarious.
point. That's such a good choice. What's your favourite Monty Python movie?
Holy Grail is mine, because I think that
Same.
was nice. Nice. Yeah, I think Holy Grail was like the first one. I think I remember my mum watching Life of Brian when I was little and kind of seeing, I remember being like really young and seeing like, I think maybe the start of it and literally just not getting it, like not getting that it was a
Mm.
comedy and then being really sort of confused. And then I remember being like a bit older and seeing like a few more glimpses of it. But yeah, Holy Grail was like I remember my friend, one of my best friends came around and brought the DVD of it for some reason, and so we just kind of like stuck it on, and I just remember being in like absolute floods of laughter, or
Uh-huh.
fits of laughter.
100%.
And yeah, there's just so many more. There's such like an inventive, similar to Mr. Bean. There is like such an
Yeah.
inventiveness and like strangeness to the humor, and it just goes in like you never know which direction it's going to go, which I think is ultimately the biggest thing with comedy is like surprises tend to be like funny, and surprises tend to be scary. And I think that's like to have a comedy where you genuinely are like, I have no idea where this is gonna go next. But you're
Yeah.
just like so along for the ride, and the Holy Grail does go to like such a weird place at the end. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I absolutely adored that movie when first I saw it, and absolutely adored like their performances. And like despite that, I've actually not seen that much of the Pythons, outside of those two movies. I think I've seen is it The Meaning of Life? I've seen that, and that's about it for like my time with the Pythons. So I
Yeah.
really need to get on that and kind of rectify that. What about you?
But well, that's my dad's a massive fan of Monty Python, so we have quite a similar sense of humor, and we like the same kind of comedy movies. Like he likes some terrible movies, but his choice in comedy movies are always very good.
Nice.
So his favorite I think is Life of Brian. So I'd seen that one first, and I did think it was really really funny. And then I had watched The Meaning of Life, and then I think I watched The Holy Grail. I think that was the last one I watched, and I just thought it was hysterical. Like it's just at such a ridiculous everything. Like from the way that they gallop along with their little coconuts, it's just like
Yeah.
I feel like if you when you describe it to people, it doesn't sound as funny, but then when you
No.
watch it, it's just hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many like there's
But
so many
yeah,
like sort of subtle and weirdly like clever jokes, like yeah, the coconut thing. I love the one where it's like there's a knight charging at the castle, and it just keeps cutting away to the exact same shot of them like running from a distance with like the dramatic music playing,
Yes.
and it's just again, it's just like such a simple like filmic trick. As the whole movies are obviously made on like a shoestring budget as well, like but like the scope of them is really
Yeah.
big, and they managed to to just be like so creative with what they have. So yeah, like I feel like they probably there's probably like very serious movies that have like pulled tricks from the Pythons, because
Yeah.
they do so much so well. But yeah,
No, a very good choice. Very funny.
thank you very much.
And they do, yeah. They've obviously because they had like their TV show in that first, I think. So they've obviously like worked together for so long, and you can tell, and it does make a difference because they're just so good together. And I think
Exactly.
a lot of it like ad libbed as well, which is always difficult.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's difficult to again get that to make any sense. And there are like weird through
Yeah.
lines in those movies that like you almost like forget that there's actually like that you're watching a movie, not just like a series of like vignettes, but yeah, that, like there are through lines and they do sort of like go places, and that's also kind of like impressive in its own way. Um, it's like just the right amount of
No.
plot really going on in them for them to like make sense,
Yeah.
but also just be funny and crazy the whole time.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
Thank you. Anyway, on to the final section. The last one we've gone for is voice acting or voice performance. So yeah, Catherine, what was your pick for voice performance?
I think this was actually my favourite one. Once I started looking into it, I was like, oh my god, yeah, that one, and then that one. So
Thought
I've
you'd
got
like it.
like three, yeah, I've got like three picks, but one of them is an additional pick, so I've got four.
Nice.
But I don't want to mention the fourth one until you've said yours, just in case I'm interested to see if we've got the same one.
Okay.
So I'll start with my first one, which is actually a Marvel movie. If you is it Marvel? Yeah, it's Marvel. And it's Bradley Cooper as Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Fantastic. What a surprise coming from
Yeah.
you.
I think those are I quite like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, even though I remember when they first came out, I was still in uni, so I was still living in Stirling at the time. And they were like, Subway was doing this kind of like some kind of promotion thing. And I had the characters from the movie, and I thought it was just some kind of weird Subway thing. Because I was like, surely there's not a movie with a tree and a raccoon and a green woman and a man. But once I finally watched the movie, realised it was a real movie. Yeah, I think I really liked Rocket. I thought he was the best part. I think people always like Groot, but those people are wrong. Because he was the best.
I think you're
And
right.
then
Yeah,
I think it was
Rock is
even
very
more.
underrated.
Yeah, 100%. And I think once I realised, because I didn't even realise that it was Bradley Cooper at the time.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it even better. But yeah, I think Rocket has those nice moments where he's obviously hilarious and he's like having a great time, like that. The bit when he gets, I think it's Drax, to steal that guy's leg just for the lols, and then he's like properly having a good time. He only got him.
Yeah.
But then he goes from that, and then when he talks about how he was like experimented on and stuff, it is really like there's a definite like range there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one that kind of sprung to mind first.
I love it.
For my choice on that one. My second choice is wildly different, and that is Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit.
Oh wow, that is very unexpected.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think it's so good, and I think Jessica Rabbit is like such like an iconic animated character. Like people have like tattoos and stuff. My brother dressed up as her for Halloween once.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think Kathleen Turner's voice is she's got that kind of like low gravelly thing that just makes Jessica Rabbit even sexier, even though she is just a drawing, and she alludes to the fact that she's a drawing. I think as well she's got so many like iconic lines, and they definitely wouldn't be the same had it been anyone else. Saying it, and I think also Kathleen Turner was in an episode of The Simpsons, and she was so funny in that as well, where she was like the creator of Malibu Stacy.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
You know the one where Lisa is Yeah, and she's like sitting there and she's got her drink and she's like, I'm drunk. So funny.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, and then, of course, how could I not mention Judy Hopps?
Excellent. The cherry on top.
I couldn't not. I couldn't not. So obviously Jennifer Goodwin, she's so good in that movie. I mean, we all know that that movie's amazing and that I love it to death. But like right from the start, she gives it. She's like all she swings wildly from like being super chipper and happy, and then having little moments where she's like regretting everything that she's done, and like feeling sad and horrible, and then like it's such like a, for it being like a Disney movie, it's such like a kind of like varied performance. Obviously because we were talking about how it's basically like a crime movie, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't not mention my main gal, Judy Hopps. That's my final pick.
Yeah, no, it would have been very sad if you'd left her left her to the bed and not mentioned. So I'm glad she got a wee mention. We shout out to Judy Hopps.
A wee shout out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, very good picks. And again, like all very interesting and sort of different like directions again, which you've been very good at this podcast. So massively fair play to you. But yeah, like ones that I would honestly not have thought of. But like, yeah, I couldn't agree more with. As you say, like there's so much done there with like the vocal performance, and they are all like irreplaceable effectively, that you could not have someone else in the role. My pick is also a bit of a different one. I had sort of two or three choices, so I'll go for like maybe the sort of more obvious ones first, and then I'll go for like my sort of main pick. So one that I like sort of couldn't not mention, despite the fact that I don't think I've seen the film since I was a kid, is Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin.
The genie.
Because
Yep.
he is just like, there's so much like charisma and energy to that performance, and it's so like he's so like Robin Williams, but also so like its own thing, and it's just like, I've not seen the new Aladdin movie, and I'm sure like I think that Will Smith did receive a lot of praise for like how he like handled the character and stuff, but at the end of the day, like you can't, it's untoppable. You cannot beat the Robin Williams performance. He just does too good a job. And he is like the thing that people remember from like the movie. You know, you say Aladdin, you don't think of Aladdin, you think of the genie.
Yeah.
Like he so steals the movie. So that was obviously one of the ones that I had to mention. If you didn't, and I'm surprised you didn't. Another one on that same sort of vein would be James Earl Jones as
of course,
for two performances, for Vader, but also obviously for Mufasa, who he does such a good job of playing Mufasa that he literally came back.
Yeah, is it funny that my mind went straight to Mufasa over Darth Vader?
Well, he played Mufasa twice, so that I think is they rebooted where they redid the Lion King in live action, different animation really, but they were like, well, we can recast everyone else apart from Mufasa, even though he has like some of the smallest screen time really.
Can you imagine the uproar if he wasn't, like, more so than there already was, if James Earl Jones wasn't Mufasa?
I know exactly. And yeah, he just has such a good like distinctive voice, and there's so much like, I think if you were to look at like the lines the character says, yeah, there probably are like fairly well written, but at the same time, I think like so much about like what that character is just from the voice performance, and like there's like a comforting but like authoritative like nature to it, and you just like, you absolutely buy that he is like the king, and you do like love the character and like the sort of short-ish time that you get with him, and then obviously of course Vader, with it being like a sort of live action movie and him not doing any of the actual body work, and also having like an unemotive skull effectively that he is there to just sort of like,
quite difficult.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. I think is you look at it now and you're like, oh, it's Vader. Like, yeah, you just almost like accept that it's like well done. But like to actually pull it off must have been ridiculous. I mean, there is a reason that like most of the people involved in Star Wars didn't think it was going to do well. And I imagine when they were filming all the Darth Vader stuff, it probably looked ridiculous.
Yes.
But with the magic of post production, and obviously
fix it in post.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they very much did with Star Wars, um, and Vader's yeah the peak of that, I guess. So yeah, those were the two sort of like um, more maybe expected choices. My sort of main pick was one that again took me a while to actually think of,
Hmm.
and it's basically this is the actor that I was going to mention earlier as well, because I am a big
Hmm.
fan of theirs. So my pick for best voice, my favorite like voice performance, Scarlett Johansson in Her. Um, because
Okay.
again, I'm pretty sure she came onto that project like super late on. So she wasn't like really involved in like most of the movie. They'd shot everything with another actress in mind, and she came on, and she is literally just a voice. Like there's nothing,
Yeah.
Darth Vader. There's like a body performance, like even like Robin Williams and stuff. There's animation, but Scarlett Johansson is a disembodied voice, and the
Yeah.
whole
That's such
premise
a
of the
good point.
movie is a love story. You're supposed to buy into like this person falling in love with like this artificial being, but you don't even have like a tangible like thing to lock onto. You just have like the voice performance, and I think like she does such a good job. And Scarlett Johansson is another one where like I feel like she's in a lot of sort of mainstream things. But I do feel like she always
Hmm.
delivers, and I do feel like I always kind of forget sometimes just like how good she is. You watch something like Marriage Story, and she absolutely crushes it.
Yeah.
Like there's so much like authenticity to her performance and stuff. But yeah, I think like out of all the performances, the most impressive one's probably going to be her in Her, for doing like so much with so little. Um,
That's a good
so yeah.
choice. I'm so annoyed because I still haven't seen it, right? Because I was when it was coming out, I had said to my bestie, and she'll deny this till the day she dies. I'd said to her, "I want to go and see that movie," and she said, "I don't want to." So I still haven't seen it. She maintains now that she did want to go and see it, but then we would have gone to see it
Yeah,
had that been the
exactly.
case. So I actually haven't seen it, even though I did want to see it. But that was definitely one of the reasons why I did want to see it, was because she was just like a disembodied voice, and how they
Yeah.
were going to do that, and how that was going to come across. But funny you should mention disembodied voices, because the one, my little extra pick, was one that I didn't know whether you was going to choose as well, and that was the actor's name's Douglas Rain, and he is HAL 2000 in 2001: A Space
Oh,
Odyssey. He's just that little red dot.
fantastic. Yep, yep. Absolutely. Really, really good pick. Yeah. No, like that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I
He's
think
so
that
good. I think that's. Oh, sorry, no, I think he's funny as well, because that's like a kind of trope that's been like spoofed in lots of things, and like The Simpsons has done it with Pierce Brosnan and things.
yeah.
Um, and it's similar to Her. It's just like Hal is just like a little red dot, and that's it. And that just it speaks a lot to like Stanley Kubrick, obviously, because it feels like it's a character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also the thing that kind of shocked me when I first saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, as well, is like he's not in the movie for very much. He doesn't get that much screen time. You would think with
Mm,
like such like I mean, yeah, like such an iconic performance, such an interesting, because at that point the sort of rogue AI character was like very fresh, with such an
yeah.
interesting like character and take on a character. You would think that the movie would milk that for all it's worth, but I mean, the movie has other things going on that it wants to look at and talk about and do. But yeah, no, like you're absolutely right. Like I think the thing that's so impressive about that as well is it's like he did also, in a complete contrast, I guess, to the other ones, he doesn't really do very much with his voice. Like it's just this sort of like really like calm,
Yeah.
monotonous presence almost, and that's what makes it work so well. Is he's not delivering
Hmm.
like any other actor really would. He is just being like so machine like, and that's where like there
Yeah.
is something so like hauntingly sort of like really unsettling and creepy about it. And again, it is just a guy speaking to a microphone, and like you say, the occasional shot
Yeah.
of like a red dot. um, so yeah, a lot of love for that choice.
Yeah, thank you. But no, that was a really fun one. I could have gone on for forever doing voice performance.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Like I think it's again it's something that isn't in the world of acting and stuff. Probably there isn't that much appreciation and credit for really like overall. I feel like yeah, you don't really get like there's not a lot of recognition for like what actors are doing vocally, and I think it's so easy to forget when you're watching like animated movies or just movies in general where there's like obviously like a vocal performance, or a singular like vocal performance, but it must be so difficult to do because you're not like, again, you're like taking one singular like thing that you have and you're just relying on that, and you're trying to like deliver a
Yeah.
full performance with just your voice while you're standing in like a booth. You don't even really have anything to kind of work off of. You just have like the sort
Yeah.
of like power of your imagination, really.
That must be really difficult. Yeah. So props to them.
Yeah,
Catherine,
exactly.
looking at
Well, yeah, what the perfect note to end on, I guess, is yeah,
you.
props to the
Yeah.
actors and specifically to Judy Hopps. um, it's the unsung hero of the podcast.
Of my
But
life.
yes, of all of our lives.
Yeah.
But so thank you once again, Catherine,
No
for
worries.
another very enjoyable week. Yeah, and I again absolutely loved all your picks.
Thank you.
Your choices definitely put mine to shame. So it's very unfortunate that you went first on all of them,
Yeah.
because
Pressure's on for next week.
yeah, well, exactly. I need to really up my game next time. But yes, thank you so much, and thank you as
No,
ever to
thank you for
obviously.
that. It was such a good topic as well. Really interesting.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Well, I very much look forward to your one next time. And yeah, thank you to any and all who watched, or any who might have skimmed. And yeah, as ever, if you have any ideas for future podcasts, any thoughts on anything, any opinions, any love for Judy Hopps to share, then please like fire off in the comments below. And yeah,
It'll just be all me
how many different accounts can you make?
from like varying accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I look forward to reading them.
Yeah.
But anyway, until the next time, take care and farewell.
See ya.